Peace and blessings. My name is Carlos Walker. This is Forward Progress, and today we have Mr. Joel Castone. Castone?
You got it, cast on.
Hey, so Mr. Castone, if you will, before we start, share a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. But before we go there, you don't have to call me Mr. Castone. We have an existing relationship. It's on Joel and Los between you and I. Right now, for the audience, we can say Mr. Castone, right? But between you and I, it's Joel and Los, man. We got a long history of friendship, right? That has it started as a brotherhood,
Mm-hmm.
extended to a friendship, and it's a network system.
Good
So
God.
when I see what you doing, the work you doing, and how you pushing out content, black on, black on. I said, look at my brother. He doing his thing, man. I remember you talked with me before you decided to do that. Remember our walks on the monument?
Yeah.
Remember all those sessions we had? And you was like, man, let's get the stories out. Let's do this. And we was trying to do this in the third. And guess what? You catapulted. You pivoted, right? You pivoted and started doing your thing. And I want to salute you for that because you had the audacity, right, of hope to invest in yourself. And in doing so, you're inspiring many people, man. So I just want to make sure I give you a public acknowledgement before we even get into anything else and how much I see you and I recognize and I salute you, brother.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now I got calls coming. Let me try to turn this thing off real quick. Sending the voicemail. Got you. Okay. Now your question was what?
Let them know who you are and in a brief of what you do. Just now,
Okay.
just brief.
All right. The way Wikipedia like to say it, I'm an American politician.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do advocacy work, prison reform, but I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm also a student of the markets. I do financial workshops in the community, and I also work inside of the juvenile facilities, helping young folks understand where they are, but also shaping that landscape that it can be more equitable and more fair for the young people on the inside, and also going a step further, moving towards not allowing prison to be the final destination for our young people, alternatives to incarceration. So I work on that advocacy also, and I wear that hat a number of working with DC government, Maryland government, et cetera, et cetera. This out here living life on life terms.
So now let's get into, I would say, the meat of this conversation. So, Joel, how long did you actually serve? Because I know you served some time. This is where me and your brotherhood started.
Right. Unfortunately, I served 27 consecutive years. I was first incarcerated in the year of 1994. I was released in the year of 2021.
Mm.
27 calendar years from the age of 18 to 44, turned 45, no, 18 to 45. Um, I'm about to be 48 this year. So this is my second year and a couple of months in freedom.
Okay. So, on Forward Progress, what we do, I always go back because I want to show the progressiveness in your evolution. I look at it from the stage of being caterpillar to butterfly. And while many people may see the butterfly right now, what they don't understand is the caterpillar and what the caterpillar went through to become the butterfly you are now. So before prison, before you went in, tell us a little bit about your life and about who you were then.
Yeah, I like that question. The question reminded me of my colleague Michael Woody and I. We started a podcast with the Justice Policy Institute titled Life After Life. And
Mm.
essentially, that podcast will cover we had life before we received life, and we have a life after life.
Oh,
Right? So, your question is so fitting. It fits that exact notion that we have. Who was I? I was a child, an innocent kid. I grew up in Washington, D.C., Ward 8, which is the poorest section in our city. However, I had a mom and a dad, and my mom and my dad shielded me and instilled nothing but love inside of me. I grew up happy. I was a huge Michael Jackson fan when I was a kid, right? The other day I was just doing some throwbacks and listening to Michael Jackson, right? Grew up listening to Michael Jackson, also like Run DMC, the old school music, Irk Ben Rakim, just living life and enjoying life, smiling, and the community was a good community. I had a good time. I used to also like to sell ice creams. I was always an entrepreneur when I was a kid. I had a store. Some of this stuff I cover in a memoir that I'm a publish coming soon. And some of the stories, I was a pee-wee entrepreneur, if you will. I
Mm-hmm.
had a store. I was real good with numbers back then. I was the one who pretty much I budgeted. I was like the treasurer of our money that we made. We used to pump gas for money. I sold freezy, put Kool-Aids in cups, did that popcorn with the seasoned salt, all those things like that, man. And take that money, go to the store and buy some little Debbie cakes and potato chips and everything. Just this ambitious young child, who had a bright future before him, and my life was lovely up until the crack epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
The crack epidemic just transformed my community tremendously. The people that I looked up to, family members and neighbors, all of a sudden they became victim to a substance that I smelt inside the hallways in my neighborhood. I saw how the older people, we call them the big boys, how the big boys began to went from riding or stealing bicycles and to all of a sudden they have a pocket full of money. The same people I witnessed, looked up to, played football with, throwback tackle. We in my neighborhood, we used to play throwback tackle in the streets, right? I mean, we didn't have much grass and greenery and stuff like that there, but it was still fun. But as I stated, when the crack epidemic took over my community, things changed. All of a sudden, homes was being broken into. People that you once trusted, they turned on you,
Mm-hmm.
and even to the point of being exploited as a young person and forced to sell drugs. And all this happened when I was in a sixth grade. So up to the sixth grade, like I was very gifted. I have a speech impediment now. I couldn't speak or pronounce the English letters correctly. So I had to take special classes just to speak correctly. But at that time, I had a very strong memory, and orative skills rather, was very strong. So I can, when I'm on stage, I can speak. I used to do speech and drama. I got a lot of awards when I was a kid. I used to can memorize like a long speech, like 2, 3 pages speeches like this. I had a real sharp memory because I couldn't say words correctly. But it seemed like because of that deficiency, God gave me another gift.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, um, I did that for a long time when I was a little kid, up until again the crack epidemic. And when the crack epidemic took place, it broke my home apart, left my mom to become a single mom. My dad got on drugs, my siblings got on drugs, cousins, family members, neighbors, etc. And things just changed overnight. I went from being a smiley faced young kid to being trapped in a world that I didn't want to be a part of.
Mm. So let's move forward just a tad. Your whole world unchanged. I'm assuming you started selling drugs, or tell me a little bit about the life inside when it changed.
Yeah, the life, I mean, when it changed was more so, I think the first thing was just more so the trauma associated with seeing your family members being addicted to a substance, and those addictive behaviors, those destructive addictive behavior, and the impact it has on you as a young person, right? That was the first thing, seeing your hero, which is your dad, become addicted to a substance.
Talk about that feeling. What did you feel? Or when you look back, what do you feel even now?
Sadness would be one. Sadness would probably be the biggest one. You feel sad, you feel ashamed, you feel embarrassed. You know, no one wants to see their family members deteriorate right before their eyes. And especially in my situation where I had so much love in the home. You know, I have to confess that I had a lot of love in the home. I didn't grow up lacking love or self-esteem. I had a lot of self-esteem, a lot of love. But when that substance entered into my sacred space, my family, it be it snatched my loved ones away from me because they were chasing their addiction, and it left me alone. And my cousins and I began to resort to things, basically survival tactics.
Mhm.
And these survival tactics were welcome inside of the streets, or inside of the black market, as I like to call it. So I was forced to be in part of the black market when I was in sixth grade, due to like I say, family members who allowed their addiction to take over. And as a young person, you know, I think, it's kind of weird when you think about it. Here you are, I think when I'm like 12 or something like that, 11 years old, even crack addicts like, what you doing? They was like, you don't got no crack. Even they didn't believe it at some point, but we did. And then, you went from like now all of a sudden that these little kids, because we was little kids doing this, but this money was being used to supplement the income that was being missed. So that became a time, where once you become um, addicted to making fast money, when you don't even really know exactly, well, you have an idea of the value of a dollar, because you see how the value of a dollar can make someone do some things. Like, again, those who are addicted, watching the big boys and the things they do, like, wow, I want that same power.
Mhm.
I want that same respect. I want to be able to go into the store and buy what I want to buy without asking anyone for money. And there wasn't any employment outside of that. I can even recall one time there was a lady who used to pick us up and take us to sell candy. And this was before the the selling of drugs. And I can remember being so happy with that. Like, it was already, it was doing my store. When I tell you my little store, all this pride of crack. I had my store going, I'm doing that, I'm feeling good about that. Then I'm selling candy. It's like, how do you employ that energy that our young folks have? How can we employ it before they become contaminated by a street culture,
Society.
society, right? And so, again, these were good things, but they were seasonal. Use
Mhm.
the economic term. They were seasonal. They wasn't something that that happened year round, like the selling of candy and things of that nature. So now there's a void. Like, what do I do? And now you have this substance that's coming in that you're being introduced to, and you're watching people become zombies because they're chasing this substance, right? And then all of a sudden, like, this become the new moneymaker, because you see how other people who are utilizing, who are the suppliers of this substance. So you have the suppliers and the demanders. Demanders are consuming it, and you don't like that. But you also see the benefit that the suppliers receive by supplying this substance, the new cars, the fashion clothes, et cetera, et cetera. And then you get sucked
Mhm.
into that black market until you get arrested. And then you find yourself a young person who have been totally indoctrinated with the underground world, and now you're inside of a carceral space, charged as an adult, but you're only a kid.
How old, being that we're here at this point, how old were you when you got incarcerated?
I was 16. My first
Eh,
time I went to prison, I was 16 years old. Arrested at 16. Came out at 17.
Drug charge? If you don't mind me asking.
Nah, it was a violent offense.
Okay.
Yeah, violent offense at 16. Came out and went back into 18.
And at 18, if you don't mind me digging a little deeper, was this offense, well, we all know everything started from these substances that came into your community. Because otherwise, had these substances never been there, you would have still been being able to be a kid. Your community still would have been bright. However, a dark cloud reigned over it because of, I like to say, our government, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And this changed your whole entire life and switched it over from where you started delving into things that the government meant for us to play a part in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And at 16, you found yourself incarcerated, but at 17, you found yourself back incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak with, or will you speak a little bit about the charge and maybe just briefly about what happened, how you ended there?
Yeah. I mean, it's a known fact as far as me. You got just Google my
Yes.
name, you get a ton of information about me, right? Uh, some good, some bad. The you know, every time I think about the offense itself, I personally become a chill come over me.
Mm,
A chill come over me because of the fact that oftentimes we are judged by our worst behaviors,
mm-hmm,
and that judgment can detract from what you're trying to do or the life of redemption that you're trying to live.
mm-hmm,
So the sensationalization of the charge, because I was charged with the slaying of another teen,
mm,
but the sensationalization of such a charge as that, in my particular situation, headline news, convicted murderer pointing to the sentencing commission,
mm,
convicted murderer appointed to or elected as an ANC commissioner.
mm.
Those things, I believe that the messaging is done as such so they can be, oh my goodness, he's what? What? The title,
You see
the
this
labeling.
before you see that.
You see this before that. So when I get asked the question like, what was the child in a sense, it makes me pause. It makes it, I somewhat cringe a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I cringe a little bit because it doesn't even look at who am I as an individual first.
Come on now.
You understand what I'm saying?
Come on.
And so I think that justice impacted people are often put in a proverbial box.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, because so many individuals are sharing their stories, so many people are speaking truth to power and doing these things, it's as if that now we are expected to just show up and just be naked, to be vulnerable, when the average person can't even do that. Even if they can, they refuse to do that. No
Mm-hmm.
one else is expected to say, "Hey, tell me about your worst secret." No one else, no one has asked that question. You can see a victim, a rape victim, or something that's of a very horrifying act that was very traumatic. They're not expected to even talk about that there. You understand what I'm saying? So I share that to say that what I see in the field nowadays with so many of us good men and women who are doing their things who off the cuff, uncut, uncensored, unadulterated, giving the riggedy raw, the real truth, and we unveiling ourselves before the world,
We use it as power.
right? We unveiling ourselves before the world, and we letting them see that the worst thing that ever happened to me, I can overstand that and stand on that to the power you just talked about, right? And so I give the answer in a long-winded sense
You good.
because I want the young people to see, like, because sometimes they even glamorize what the person did,
Mm-hmm.
right? As if that was a noble thing. That was not a noble act.
No.
It was an act by which I was under the impression that that was a manly thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
When I no longer believe that way, I no longer think that way. I also regret that day.
Mm-hmm.
I regret that time. I regret that act. However, but God,
But God.
moving beyond that, who said, you know what, there's still work for you, Moses. I know what you did to that Egyptian. I seen that, but I see the leadership inside of you, and I have chosen you to lead a nation. And
Come on
so
in.
now we're talking about leading a nation of people or young folks that we can get them reached before they even become just involved. We know what it is. I just said it. Come from this house, crack epidemic took me off my innocent path. Now I've been swamped. I've been wrapped up into a destructive path. Now we know how we got there because we can go all the way back. We just talking about redlining in my economic seminar, which speaks about the policy how banks drew a red line in the map
Come on. This is
and
what we're
said
gonna put.
we not even going to do no business with people that live around here and who live around here. The people look like you and me,
Mhm.
and it's not it's a reason why we don't know anything about economics. The reason why we don't know anything about the financial markets. The reason why we think about the stock markets being so mystical that you can't understand it. We don't know nothing about credit, business credit, none of these things because we have deliberately and strategically denied access to these institutions.
Mhm.
Historically and systematically, we've been denied access to these institutions. And so what do? We go to the black market, the only place that you allow us to interact in. And you say, well, we know this is the nefarious act right here. This is a bad space, right? We know they're going to kill themselves and do all other type of harmful acts, but guess what? It's okay with us because they need to kill themselves.
Mhm.
We don't care anything about them anyway, right?
Mhm.
And so let them do that right there. Let them be destructive in that destructive space that was created for us to
Come on.
be destructive, right? It's a sad situation, man. But yeah, that was it. So this the pathway that led young Joel inside of a causal space for me being wrongfully thinking that it was the right thing to harm another team who it was my life or his life, and he lost his life, and in essence I lost my life too.
2 and 1.
2 and 1.
So you're in there, and you are given a what was your sentence? Was it 25 to life?
No, I was sentenced to life with with a mandatory 35 years with the opportunity for parole.
Okay. And you're sitting in prison, roughly probably about 18 when you got your time. Life looks crazy. I'm pretty sure you started off at the federal penitentiary, correct?
Hmm.
So you're in prison. Tell me a little bit about the in prison part before Joel, or when Joel sparked and said, you know what, I'm about to change my life because this ain't life and there's more to it. Tell me a little bit about this.
Yeah. Hold for 1 second.
Go ahead.
My stepdaughter, she's she's in a crisis right now. Let me. I'm on dad duty in the midst of an interview. Okay. The question was in the midst of.
In the midst of this situation, tell me a little bit about prison when you first got there and lead me to your evolution when you decided to say, yo, you know what? This isn't life.
Yeah.
I'm going to become the best version of me and
Mm,
start shifting and pivot.
yeah. That's a great question. For me personally, before I even went to prison, I was already out. I didn't want that life, right? I was sick and tired of the life that I was living before I even went to prison. I was trying to say, you know what? I want to take my money and get me. I didn't know much about business at that time. I just had the capital. So I'm like, I'm trying to get some stores. I'm trying to do this. I think I want to get a laundromat. I just had different stuff that I saw: laundromats, barber shops, simple stuff like that. I said, you know what? I want out. I'm gonna take this and do this and become a businessman. I'm sick of living this way. Unfortunately, the the pathway or the door to exit wasn't that easy. So ultimately, I was arrested. I was on a run and I got arrested. Once I got arrested, I'm gonna tell you right now, brother. When I was in Central Cell, I slept almost like, man, at least I ain't on the run no more. At least that
Mm,
is over. You right? I had a mindset then like I felt like I was rescued and not arrested. I heard
mm,
people say that I was rescued and not arrested. In my particular situation, I was really rescued because the officers wanted to kill me. Right?
mm.
The way I was arrested, they had the helicopters, the cars, all that crazy stuff like that there, and I was being pulled over. It was a high speed chase. I got pulled over, and when I got pulled over, the sergeant at that time had jumped out the car, and he knew me from the neighborhood. He jumped out the car, and I'll never forget it. He jumped in front of me, bro, and said, "Hey, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't
Mm.
shoot, don't shoot him, don't shoot." The sergeant said, "Don't shoot." He said, "Joel, get in the car." Now, mindful, I don't have no relationship with this guy. I don't know him like that. He knew my case file. I got arrested before by him. They didn't have enough evidence to charge me with the crime that they arrested me with, so he had to let me go. But I remember his conversation. He said, "I'm afraid to let you go. I think you're gonna get killed out there." I'm arrogant. I'm a young, cocky king teen. Like, man, ain't nobody kill me. What you talking about? I'm talking back slick. But something in him, he saw the kid in me.
But you tell me earlier, but God.
But God,
Hey, what you say about Moses? God put it in him to know one thing. This one here got a calling over his
he
life.
got a call over his life, man.
He might have to step in this cell for 27 calendars. That
Hmm.
man didn't know that.
He
But
didn't
what
know
he
that.
but what he did know was he got a calling over his life.
Man, this man, I'm telling you, when the car stopped, he this way, hella every I'm being pursued by by the finest, MPD finest.
Come on now.
He jumps out there and says, "Hey, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot him, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't." And I just saw it, and it stunned me. It stunned me. Open up the car, the door to the to his vehicle. Said, "Get in the back, Joel. Just get in the back, man." I never had a conversation with this guy afterwards, man. I got in that car. That's why I said I was rescued, not arrested.
Come on.
I was rescued, not arrested, and he took me to the precinct. So in my mindset, I'm like, I've been on the run for a while anyway. For those who you've been on the run, that's agony. That's like a mental agony by itself, trying to go to space to places, and that just is just too much that comes with that. So the kind of like gave me a little peace, if you will, right? But just even right now, as I pause and just reflect for a moment, I wonder what was going through his mind. So many young black men. He was a white guy too, by the way.
Mm.
So many young black men has been killed by the hands of police officers. In his mind, he was like, "You ain't killing this young kid today, man. Y'all ain't killing him, man." Now I don't know what conversation they might have had about me in the in the precinct or whatever case may be, or within his. I'm quite certain he's privy to that. But in his mindset, he was like, "Y'all not killing this young kid today, man.
Not
Not
today.
on my watch, man. I'm sick of y'all." Yeah, I'm ad-libbing what he could have possibly been thinking. But I'm just saying that was his actions. That was his action. It was a quiet ride back. If he said something, I don't even know what he said. I don't remember nothing because I know I ain't saying nothing to him. But I know on the ride to the precinct, man, it was more so like, and me, I'm like this, like just thinking about everything that just happened. So I go in and I get in the jail, and like I said, to be honest with you, I kind of felt like, whew, like finally, and at that time, DC was the murder capital.
Mm.
So there were also so many other teens that was inside of DC jail charged with murder. And over the years, these individuals became to be some of my closest friends. They like brothers to me right now. By the grace of God, with the enactment of IRA, the Incarceration Reduction Amendment Act, it's like 160 of us, right, who have been released. Former juvenile lifers, now we free. And I'm telling these guys can call me, or I can call, and like, "What's up?" and everybody doing something positive, everybody doing something productive. I would say probably like 95% of us, the recidivism rate amongst us is so low.
It's almost
It's so
zero.
low. You may have a couple of bad acts, but it's so low from an algorithm speaking a standpoint, or from a number perspective. We in the high 90s.
When you think of a percentage, and a few of
How
you
many
I
of
met sitting
individuals,
in prison.
yeah, have been rearrested for the years, the time, as well as the offenses by which we were charged with too. The offenses we were charged with, right? We're successfully completing parole. We successfully completing probation,
You
right?
successfully
With
becoming business owners.
all
Uh,
this stuff, man.
we even gonna get into who you are in a minute because they don't even know that yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
So I mean, but to your question, that's how it was. I went in like, and then at the same token, I gotta admit that I didn't even really know fully. Like, I can easily say now what I did, but at that age, it was like a bad dream to me. I didn't understand the full ramifications of my actions. I
mhm,
didn't. It didn't even click until after I was sentenced, and maybe like 7 or 8 years later after my sentence, I really realized that, wait a minute, I was sentenced to life. I
mhm.
thought it was a bad dream. I don't know if you remember when you was kid and you got punished or something like that. You like, I'm gonna wake up, it's gonna be over. I actually thought like that. I thought
So
it was just, I thought it was like a bad dream.
to that, I'm glad you said that because that sounds like at the point in time when you got sentenced to life, the emotional standpoint really wasn't there.
It wasn't.
That means later on, 7, 8 years later, when it hit you, give me that emotion that you felt. What ran through your mind when it did click?
When it clicked, I was in a USP, United States Penitentiary, level 7 penitentiary, and I received a letter from the courts saying that my case was remanded. Right? Oh, no, excuse me, I'm not remanded. The mandate was issuing my case, meaning it was closed.
Mm.
And I remember reading that. I'm like, I looked it up in the law library, the dictionary, the Black Law Dictionary, what that meant. And I'm like, this. Oh, wait a minute. It dawned on me, like, it's closed, it's over. Like what? Hold up. And I remember just sitting back and saying, hold up, I'm sentenced to life. And like it I don't it seemed like, because I was arrested in Washington D.C. So in Washington D.C. we don't have a prison.
Mhm.
So we go straight to the federal institutions, right? So out of 27 calendar years, I was transferred to 16 different facilities.
Mm.
So in 27 years, I was in 16 different places. So I was being transferred from here, year here, 2 year here, 6 months here, 7 months here. I was being bounced with so many different places. That was another thing. I didn't even have a chance to even focus on the fact that I was sentenced. Like, because everywhere I go to is like, it's back to survival mode. You survival the fittest, right? It's a different world up in there. You know it very well. So when I got that letter, and it hit me like, wait a minute, hold up. I said, nah, this can't be. And I was talking to a couple of older guys from different states, you know. 'Cause, on the inside they very geographical. However, I learned that a homie is a person from the same state of mind.
Here we go.
It don't matter what state you from. If we thinking the same, you're a homie. So these were my homies, right? They wasn't Washingtonian, but they was my homies. Believe that. And they was older gentlemen. They was serving life too, and they already was in a bit. And one of them was a man of prayer. He said, young brother, you want to start praying? We can start praying every day together, man. We need to get out of here. And that's how I was. In that moment right there, my spirituality, like, listen, you know what? I'm praying every single day. And I'm taking the spirit with me, and I'm going to the law library. This not happening here. I got to recall the mandate, right? That was my first thing. Recall the mandate. And I started, and my mindset at this point, I was having my introduction in the financial markets. So I was already, it was like the beginning stage of me writing the currency catchers book. I first wrote it on the inside,
Okay.
right? It was like a little pamphlet I did. So I was already active in my education. I got my GED. I got my GED early on. I got my GED when I was still in the county, right? I got my GED then, and something magical happened when I got my GED. All of a sudden, I'm like, you know what? I never was a dumb person. I got my GED. Let me go further. Let me get some. Let me get some college course. What college I'm gonna do? Let me study this. Let me study this. Let me study. You know, I was on. You know, I was on a very a vigorous study regimen, like just trying to gain as much as possible. And I think that what I did was I kind of buried myself in education. Education became my solace as I was coping with my incarceration. You know, so it was like education, prayer, and faith. But when that mandate hit, it went to a whole nother level. It's like, you know what? I'm not down in this place.
Mm.
I have to get out of here. I have to get out of here. And so nothing about the prison setting, like, you know how we get in prison, you know, for those who don't know, you know, I don't know, your audience will have, you know, we sometimes guys in prison, they send a little prison, you know, pictures home. They got, you know, they got the best watch they can give you, their little sweatsuits on,
G-Shot.
you know, G-Shock, they got they sweatsuits on, they little prison, you know, their muscles, they done did a little couple poses or something, right? Man, at that point, none of that mattered to me.
Freedom did.
Freedom. I'm getting out of here. I gotta get out of here. And so I snapped. I snapped mentally. You know, I rebelled against the space in which I was in, and ultimately, I outgrew the confinements in my incarceration. I outgrew it.
It was more of a mental transition. I read something that says if you can think about it, the pathway to your direction will open up. And that's pretty much what happened with you when that mandate came down. In your mind, you said, I'm not dying here. You buried yourself in books to free yourself. You buried yourself in education to free your mind from the state of where your body was at, but you became free.
Hmm.
And we're going to transition a little bit more. Uh, the people or the men, the brotherhood, because you spoke about the brothers that you met that have been freed from the ira, from the law. And these men, because most of them older, or I will put not just them, but like you said, the homies that you met that was on the same mentality. How did they help form the bond and the person that you are today? Because a lot of this stuff came because of the people you were around, not the environment that you was in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's people with programs. You know,
Yes.
it's the people that occupy the building, not the building itself.
Mm-hmm.
These individuals, you know, they all also underwent a transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So we became each other counselors. We became each other sounding boards, right? We became each other confidants. So now all of a sudden we were like, man, you know what? Hey, man, instead of thinking about ways that we can become better criminals, or we started thinking about ways, you know what? Guys was talking about like all the stuff we were talking about running shows and writing movie scripts and writing books and putting together investment portfolios and all that stuff. We were talking about this stuff before we even got out.
This is
While
when
we
you
was
learn. This is how you created your book, right?
exactly.
Parents to Catchers.
Exactly. I was like this, man. Look, I'm watching. Well, I used to like watching CNBC. You know, I'm a huge CNBC fan. You know, I'm a shout out to CNBC. I gotta keep 100, man. I love watching Melissa Lee, man. You know, and my man Jim Crane, and all that, man, and Becky Quick and Andrew Ross Sorkin, man, and Joe Kern in the morning, and you know, and all them people's, man. I was on that show. I watched it all day. You know, Kelly Evans, man, the late Maria, not the late, but Maria, she's no longer on there no more, right? But I watched all of it, man. I used to always watch it, you know, and so my point was that like I knew then, even now I can go back when I first came in, when I said I was rescued, not arrested, even back then I said, you know what, this is not the path for me no more.
Mm.
I was looking for business ownership. I wanted those type of studies and those type of courses back then because I understood that the drug game was a dead end. It was a dead end. Only thing was coming my home was either getting killed, right? Either I was gonna either die or be in jail for life, and being in jail for life was what came was the card that was given to me, right? And so once I got in justice, I don't want to die in here.
Mm-mm.
I don't want to die in here. I do not want to die in this place. So I rebelled against everything that meant to be a prisoner.
Mm.
Everything that meant to be a prisoner, I rebelled against it. I'm nothing against anybody else, but I don't even have a tattoo.
I got that.
I don't have nothing because I said I don't want to be a part of this no more. I'm done with this.
Your mind state changed but you say your mind state had already changed before you got there. So
Before I even got there, I was wanting to
even
be
when you,
rescued. I didn't it didn't take incarceration. I just needed the right resources in place. So I went in already with a mentality saying I, I needed I just didn't know how to get on the right track.
and it fell your way.
I just didn't know how to get on the right track. So it's almost like what happens when you have a person that is in too deep, right? Remember that song, I'm in too deep.
Hmm.
I done killed another brother and I just can't sleep,
Mm.
right? I'm in too deep, but I want out. I know something is in me. I just don't know what that something is. There's good greatness inside of me. I couldn't say that then, but maybe that's what that police officer saw. That sergeant. That's what he saw it.
He
That's
saw.
what prompted him to act the way he did. So throughout my incarceration, my other comrades,
Hmm.
older comrades, my mentors, they saw something inside of me. They poured inside of me. They started saying, you know what, man, he got some. Man, let's elect him to be the chairman. Let's put together an organization, a group where we're gonna do programming, and we want Joel to lead it. We'll
Mm.
help you, don't worry about it. We show you how to do it. And so that's what started happening. I'm running programs. Now all of a
Th-
sudden it's in the inside. I'm running
This is the part that
programs.
I need right
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah.
I hate to stop you right there, but I was going to ask you what started your track record to becoming what you are now, which tell them who you are or who you became before you came out of prison because you was a public figure.
Yes, correct.
Tell them who you were, but then go straight back to that and give them that real quick.
Okay, got you. Well, I'm the first person in the history of Washington, D.C. to be elected as a public official while I was incarcerated. So I ran for office while I was in the inside. There was a vacancy. D.C. restored the right of vote for incarcerated people. Not only was able to vote for the first time, I also ran for public office and won. I received votes from my constituent that was on the inside, as well as some votes from individuals on the outside. So that was, that was that in a nutshell. So once this ANC stand for Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner, I was the commissioner of like relative, like give or take between anywhere between 1,900 like 2,200 individuals. Right? We have it's the lower tier of local government in Washington D.C. So yeah, back to the other thing,
Yes.
they saw that in me. And so my older homies was like, listen, we're gonna do this, man. Joe, won't you lead? Won't you lead? And remember, I'm very comfortable with speaking in public. I don't have no fear with that at all. That's like I had that since I was a kid. So even now, my speech is not great, but when I speak in public, it's like it gets better. It's because of the gift. It's not me. It's God. It has nothing to do with me. It's God, right? And I know it's God because I can't speak regularly. I make a lot of mistakes, man. I speak multiple languages, right? So anyway, my point is that with that experience, I was leading programming, and I started working with the administration that knew me by name, cast on, because I was putting together programs, flyers. You will have, in the federal system is, it's almost like the United States in a sense because you have
Hmm.
people all over and the globe. So I'm running, blacks, white, Spanish, and others that's coming to my program and stuff like, which gave me a sense of power on the inside. I didn't know then that was preparing me for the work I'm doing now.
Good God.
Right. I didn't know that then. I was just doing what seemed to be natural to me. Right. But in that process, my mentors were helping me. And so I got comfortable writing memos, writing stuff that needed to agendas and proposals and then running things and speaking and articulating myself. I got used to that way before I became an ANC commissioner. So you just God was really training me all along. He's training me, even with the money thing. I became a treasurer when I came home, where I learned money on the inside. Sort of like a lot of people, akin it to the life of Joseph, the biblical figure of Joseph.
Hmm.
So Yeah, that's how I went. So I had those experiences, and before I became the ANC commissioner at DC jail, when I came back from my legal work that I was doing, filing petitions and filing motions and things of nature to get some sort of relief, I came back to DC jail, and there I was able to create a curriculum or a program called Young Men Emerging. And the Young Men Emerging, as a founding mentor, along with my good partner and friend Michael Woody, he and we created a program called Young Men Emerging. And in that program, what we did was we were pairing the 18 to 25 with mentors.
Okay.
And so this was the vision of the director at that time, Quincy L. Booth, good brother, a good brother who was working with at the DC Department of Correction at that time, but his background was in education.
Mm,
So he didn't have a punitive mindset. He used his platform to educate the young people.
good
So
God.
it was him who said he wanted to do a program. He had the authority and the power to do so, and they were looking for mentors. And my name and Michael's name surfaced. So when we came on board, they said, "Hey, we got an idea. We know this law as not that was before IRA, but it was a lot of work in the scientific community that was basically essentially stated that the frontal lobe of the brain doesn't fully develop into the mid-20s, right? So that being the case, he wanted to do something different from the young people in custody. Shout out to the Brian Stevenson work. Brian Stevenson work that he did that and highlighting, in his work in Just Mercy, the movie, his book, and then later on in the movie, showing how what happened to young people. So the director, Quincy L. Booth, was impacted by that. He
Mm,
was impacted by it. He used his platform the right way, but he needed some troops, and that's when Michael and I came into place. And so when we came on board, they was like, "Hey, this is what we want to do, but we're not telling you guys what you should do. We giving you a seat at the table. What do you think we want to do, or what
mm.
do you think we need to do?" And this is when I began to start. Watch, this is what happened in the now. All that work I was doing in the feds paid off. I'm writing proposals. I'm submitting this. I want to do this. I created a money scheme. I love money. I'm an investor, right? So I create fake money, right? My own money, right? I created a banking system, and I use the banking system to incentivize the young people doing good deeds on the inside. So anything they did, and then also labeling Mike, he's a brilliant mentally, right, wordsmith. We wrote up a doctrine that basically saying we prohibit the word inmate inside of our community. That was revolutionized because we called it a community and not a unit. So then it became a community. So now we was getting our young people thinking, as well as the officers in it, to
As a
see this
community.
as a community and not a carceral space.
Mm.
We was teaching hard. We was
So
teaching civic engagement, restorative justice, the whole nine. I think Mike just posted something on Instagram. We done had Nick Cannon came in there, Dr. Bahir Muhammad from Howard University. We had Inside Out class. We spoke at Nick Cannon and Dr. Muhammad's graduation. We did poems. Ultimately, Kim Kardashian came there. She sat in our circle. We had a number of politicians and even delegates as far as feeling and set inside our circle and was recognizing the work that we were doing. All this predated me even becoming an elected official.
so now what we're gonna do, we're gonna shift again. So right around the time, because I don't know when you knew you were coming home. Right around this time, or how did you find out that you was coming home?
Well, IRA came into play. So I was a candidate for IRA, of course, which is the Cost Reduction Amendment Act that was enacted, which gave, and then we had a second look, which meaning because when I came back in the second time, I was 18. So the second look expanded the age from under 25. So prior to that, I was dealing with under 18. But the second look was under 25, which allowed us to go back to court and receive a sentence reduction if we successfully do so. In addition to that, because of the COVID, a number of laws was being passed that
Hmm.
allowed people to receive relief on the inside. I was one of those individuals. They put a measure together, and that measure allowed me to have a parole hearing, right? So what it did was it removed mandatory minimums, and it took institutional credit into consideration. So at that time, I served like 25 years, almost leaning toward the 26. So they gave me opportunity to be able to go to parole hearing. So when I had parole, I went up for parole, and The parole officer was like, he essentially said, "Man, you checked all my boxes." He said, "You did everything I'm looking for. I already had how I had every, even though because I believe I was gonna get set free. I had motions in court. I didn't know what one I was going. I'm coming home. I know I'm coming home. So I was preparing myself long before I even was set free. So when I went to parole, I had a parole hearing. I had so much everything. In his words, I checked all the boxes. That's basically what it was.
That would be the work that you was doing in the jail, the people that God had transformed you in, or the person that God has transformed you into, because you had already became the official at this point.
No, I wasn't.
Oh,
I wasn't
okay.
official. So this how that went, right? I like to always tell people that I didn't spend 27 years waiting to go home. I spent 27 years preparing myself to never come back to prison again.
Bingo.
So by the time I had my parole hearing, I had bank accounts, housing, employment, uh, impressive track record. I was shot free for essentially almost my entire incarceration, right? It's for long because I've been in state, feds, and private. So
Okay.
in the feds, I only had like one shot in the feds. I had a couple when I was younger, but that wasn't even reckoned. It was not even taken consideration, right? So I had all the things you want, as employment, resources, everything. I've been working on this stuff way before I even got the parole hearing. So in his word, he said you checked all the boxes. But what happened was I went to parole and was granted parole in March, but I was getting a release date for December of the same year. So in my mind, I'm like, man, I made parole, but I get released like 7 months later. Okay, 7 months different from life.
It
I
was
keep
still work to do.
all the time. Guess what it was?
Talk to me.
The restoring of the right to vote.
Mm. Then this is all how
That's
this transition.
that's how it happened. So while I was waiting, that hiatus from being granted parole and the release date, that's when I had the opportunity to run for office and won office. So all along,
God was setting you up.
God had a plan for me. So I had these things already in motion. So then when I ran for public office and I won public office, right, I wouldn't have done so because the only way you could have ran for public office was you had to either live where I live at right now
Mm-hmm.
or be inside the women's shelter or be inside the DC jail. And this is a real nice place I live in right now, right? I wasn't, there's no, I couldn't be there. So I would have went somewhere else. So by me staying on the inside, it qualified me to be able to run for public office. And
Mm.
I won. And when I won the office, also I got released. Before I got released, I was able to secure this location right here, so I could remain in office, so I can finish the job.
So we about to shift again. Now you are out. Tell me the things that you have done since you, because you told me you wanted me to make sure we get this part. One, you're about to go there in South by Southwest and speak, but you're an inspirational speaker, not a motivational speaker. An inspirational speaker. You just secured another office, public office, correct?
Hmm.
I want you to give me everything because I only got about 7 minutes, but I want to make sure that we get time enough for you to speak on the things that you have done, because this is what this is about, is your forward progress.
Yes.
Everything that you have done from the time that you got locked up till now has
Hmm.
been nothing but forward. Give it
Yep.
to me.
Absolutely. Well, as you know, you stated the public office. I did 1 year in that tenure and 1 year free. During that time, I was appointed as treasurer of the ANC Commissioner 7F. So I was able to complete my financial insights by doing that work as well as still advocating for the people on the inside. Another
Mhm.
feather in my head that I'm very proud of, I also was appointed as the co-chairman of the redistricting task force, where I advocated for DC jail to be its own SMD. So that meant that I don't have to represent them no more. They becomes his own single member district, so they can elect a commissioner from the inside to represent them. I could have rested in that. I said, no, I'm out here now. They need somebody that's on the inside that can fight for them better than I can, because now I'm out here, right? And it was granted. I'm very happy and very proud of that, because we just had our first female commissioner appointed to the commission, who was an incarcerated woman. The next thing I would say is that I incorporated my business. currency catches. So I took all the stuff I've been doing, accumulating for, this financial market, et cetera, et cetera. Did seminars and during the summer. Last year, I'm gonna do some this summer coming up. And I currently work with the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens, educating returning citizens along with my lovely partner, Michelle. We teach them about financial literacy, stock market investing, personal credit, business credit, life insurance, the whole nine. We leaving no stone unturned. We saying returning citizens, we may be behind the eight ball, but this not the end. We can get our life together. Look at me. I came home with zero credit. My zero credit score was zero. Right, in 6 months, I went to 700, incorporated my business. I got personal credit, business credit. I'm living my life, and all these tips are having residual income coming in, passive income coming in. How can we do it? How can we build our credit up? How can we get loans from the banks and credit in our business name, not just in our personal name, to live the life we want to live and promote our business and go further? These are the things that she and I do on a regular basis in the community. And I got a couple of websites. And go on my website, currencycatches.com, right? Or you can go on to bcw.com. That's another website we have. My personal website as far as the speaking engagement is an inspirational speaker, joelcaston.com. That's JOELCASTON.com. Right. You can go there and get on my calendar if you want me to come to your city or
Please
wherever
do.
that to speak and share my inspiration and share my story and be able to uplift a generation. I'm gonna go there and develop, but as you stated, next month I got South by Southwest, and I'm going to South Africa for 3 weeks. Man, I'm one of the Americans that was selected in the program to be able that have incarcerated people, former incarcerated people that's doing great things, such as myself, across the globe. We got people from Pakistan, India, Africa, France, Colombia, Argentina, the whole nine. I mean, we going there, and it's a robust itinerary is very intense, man. And I don't know who I'm gonna be when I get back, And they say it's gonna be life changing. The leadership training that we about to receive is gonna be out of this world, man. So I come back with that. When I come back with that, I'm gonna just go to the next level. It's about next level.
Last thing, I want you to give me a word of wisdom to somebody, whether they're younger or older, before we go.
A word of wisdom is never give up. Never give up. Never give up. Never give up. Never throw in the towel. Never say it's over. You gotta have that strand of resilience, right? A strand of resiliency inside of you. My grandmother, shout out to my grandmother, who was a Native American. She watched her family be massacred by another tribe. She was severed from her mother, her maternal mother, or my maternal great grandma, I'm going to say. And 21 years later, she met her mother, who was taken from when she was a kid.
Mm,
My grandmother never gave up. She never gave up. That same spirit of resilience is inside of me. To
never
not
give.
to give up no matter what, no matter how bleak, how bad the situation may be, you got to press forward. So when we talk about moving forward, when you see a young person who may have a flawed background, who may come from humble beginnings, that doesn't mean that that's how they're going to end. So we got to see people as people.
And
Love covers a multitude of sins. If we can move with love and recognize everybody humanity, the whole world would experience what it means to be increased in public safety because we will love each other. And that's basically what we need to do, man.
look, before I go, I want to tell you thank you because this meant a lot to me. I thank you for who you are, for what you have become. Because everybody don't understand who we are, and they don't understand that time changes things. God allows time to take a seed and it becomes a fruitful apple tree. And that's what you are.
Thank you.
So I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you for the fight that you do for the men that's still in there, because those are our brothers. But for the men that's out here, look, I appreciate you 100, man. Look, I love you. Keep doing what you're doing. Look, I'm always rooting for you. You already know
Thank
this.
you. I already know,
Look,
man.
and This is Art and Hustle. My name is Carlos Walker. He is Joel Castone, and this is Forward Progress.